Okay. So again, welcome to the Concur reporting workshop. In today's session, we are going to be going over all things reporting. So first, I'm going to go over some of the reporting roles that we have, and then we're going to review the end user reports that we have available for you guys to run. And then I'm going to go ahead and do a live demo on how to access Concur reporting, and we're going to go ahead and run some of those reports for you. And then at the end, if you have any questions, feel free to put it in chat and we will do our best to respond. All right, so there are 4 Concur reporting roles. We have the BI manager, the consumer, the business author, and the professional author. If you are a department travel admin, which I'm sure are most of the attendees here today, then you are automatically assigned this BI manager role. So we have the BI manager role, and then we have those with a Cognos license. And those who hold a Cognos license will fall into these 3 categories: the consumer, the business author, and the professional author. You can technically have both. So you could be a BI manager and you can also have a Cognos license. And the difference is when you go into the navigation, you'll see 2 options. You're going to see a BI intelligence option and you're going to see an intelligence option. So the BI is for the BI manager and the intelligence is for those with a Cognos license. So again, the consumer, the business author, or the professional author. All 4 roles can view and run reports. The difference between the BI manager and a consumer role, which is what the majority of the folks on the call have, is that the consumer, so the Cognos consumer, can see university-wide data. As a BI manager, you can only see data from your direct reports. So anyone that you are a department travel admin for, those are the folks that you're going to see data for only. If you have a consumer role, you're going to see everyone in a university. So that's one of the big differences there between the BI manager and the consumer role. With the business author role and the professional author role, we have the ability to schedule reports and we can also move and delete reports. So just be mindful of what you're doing if you do have the business author role. And for the professional author, which is for just a few folks here in our internal office, we can build custom reports. So again, we have 4 roles: the BI manager role, the consumer, the business author, and the professional role. The 2 most common roles that you're going to see are the BI manager and the consumer role. All right, and then one thing to keep in mind is that any data that gets rendered into Concur reporting, also known as Cognos, takes 24 hours to load. So for example, if I make any changes in Concur today and I run a report today, any changes that I made today are not going to show up until the following day. So just something to keep in mind. If you did something today and you run a report and you're trying to find it, you're not going to until the next day. All right, so we have 6 end user reports. We have the sent back to user report. So these are all custom built reports that we've created specifically for the university. So the sent back to user report will give you a list of expense reports and travel requests that have been sent back to the user. So if a report has gone through the workflow and during the workflow, either one of the approvers ends up sending it back or the user may recall it, so that will get sent back to them. It'll show you what step in the workflow it was sent back and any comments associated to the reason why it was sent back. Okay, we also have the expense report status by employee and the travel request status by employee. So these two will give you a list of expense reports and travel requests and what status it's in. So if it hasn't been submitted, if it's pending approval, if it's been sent back, or if it's been fully approved. All right, we also have the travel expense claim detail report, which will give you a list of expenses by the expense type. So it'll list out and break everything out by hotel, per diem, taxi, any expense type that's listed. And then we have the travel expense by project, which is pretty much the same thing, but it's listed by account code. So it'll break all of the expenses out by account codes. And then lastly, we have the security report, which will show you a list of all approvers. So your cost center approver, your department travel admin, your supervisor, and any delegate approvers as well. So these are the 6 main end user reports that are available for you all to run. And I'm going to go ahead and close out of this so that we can go ahead and go into Concur. Let's see. All right. Luke, you can see my Concur screen.
I can see your Concur screen.
Okay, awesome. Feel free to follow along if you want. But right now I am in Concur and I'm on the home page. So how do we access reporting? Up on the top under the home menu, we're going to click into that. So this might look a little bit different for you, but if you go down under reporting, you'll see travel reports and you'll see intelligence. If you're a BI manager, again, you're going to see BI intelligence instead of that. So we're going to go ahead and click into intelligence. All right, so this will redirect you over to what we call Cognos, which is the reporting tool that Concur uses. And it'll, on the home page of this, it'll just show any of the recently run reports that you've opened up. Over on the left-hand side is your navigation. So we have a search bar, my content, and team content. And what we're going to focus on today is the team content. So I'm going to go ahead and click into that. Okay, we have a couple of different folders, but the folder that you're going to want to go into is the University of Maryland, Baltimore folder. And then from here, we're going to go into the end user reports. All right, so this is where all of our end user reports, the ones that I just went over, are posted. So I'm going to go ahead and go into each one, minus a few of them because they're specific to different departments. So I'm going to go ahead and go into each one and run them. So we will start with the expense report status by employee. All right, so this is our prompt. We have the creation date, so we can choose a date range of when the expense report was created. So what am I looking for? Am I looking for expense reports that have been created for the month of April so far? Then I would choose the date range between April 1st and the 23rd. It does default to the earliest date and the latest date. So this just means it'll capture everything from the earliest possible date of when we went live onto the latest date, which is today, technically yesterday, since it takes 24 hours to load. So this is a required field. If you don't have a specific date range, you can leave it how it is, checked to the earliest and the latest date. You can also narrow your search down to your school. So if you wanted to just see, and this is for those of you with a Cognos license, if you wanted to see just your school data, you can select your school here from this list. It's optional, so you don't have to. And then if you also want to narrow that down even further by employee, you can search for the employee's name. So I'm going to go ahead and search for my name. And you're going to go ahead and check the box here and click on this right arrow to move it over. So we'll search for mine as well as Luke's. Okay, once you're done with your prompts, you're just going to go ahead and click finish at the bottom. And here we have our expense reports status by employee. It's listing out all of the expense reports that Luke and I have currently in the system. So if it's approved or not submitted. Right now, Luke has 2 expense reports that have not been submitted, a test and a testee. So Luke, you're gonna have to go ahead and submit those or delete them. So from here, if you wanted to run this to Excel, which is probably the most common case here, you would go up at the top. And next to this play button, there's a caret that is pointing down. So we're going to click into that. And we're going to click run to Excel. So it'll download the report to Excel. And then from here, you can save it, manipulate it, do whatever you need to do with this report. All right, once you are done and you want to close out of the report, maybe you want to run a different report, up at the top here in the middle, there is another down caret. You're going to click into that, and then you're going to click the X button next to the report that you have open. So this will close out of the report. We're going to go back into team content, and it's left off where we were. We are not going to run international trips because that's specifically for our international office. Since we just ran expense report status by employee, I'm going to go ahead and go down to travel request status by employee. So the same thing, but just for travel requests. All right, so again, it's the same prompt. So we can choose a date range, or we can just leave it at the earliest and latest date. Again, you can choose your school, or that's optional. You don't have to choose school. And then you can search by employee. So I'm going to go ahead and search my name again. Now go ahead and move that over. And we'll click finish. And here we have a list of all of my travel requests that I've had in the system, which there's quite a few of them. If you leave it onto the page, and if you want to see all of the data, if there are multiple pages, you just have to do page down. So we'll keep going until we reach the end. To go back to the first page, click top. And then again, if we wanted to export this to Excel, we can go ahead and click on this down caret and then run to Excel. You can also run it to PDF if you needed it in PDF version for whatever reason. If I needed to go back to that prompt page and make any adjustments, I can just run this report again by clicking the play button. So it takes us back to the prompt page. It defaults in what we had previously selected. So we have my name here, and let's say that I wanted to also see what travel request Luke has in the system. Oops, did I spell your name wrong?
I might not have any outstanding travel requests. So would it return my name if there was no travel requests?
I think probably because it's defaulting to whatever we had,
Or
um,
the date
whatever I
prompts.
had
Yeah.
selected. I'm
Yeah.
gonna close out of it, and so we might have to just go back in and rerun it. So travel request status by employee. So we'll keep that here. We don't have to select an employee if we don't want to. We can run a university-wide report. I don't want to do that here, so I'm just going to go ahead and search for my travel requests as well as loops. Okay, there you are. And we'll click finish. All right, so now we're seeing both of our information here. Shows you the school, if the user is active or not, what group you're in. So if you're a non-employee or an employee, it'll show here. The employee's name, employee ID, email address, your request name, start and end dates, request ID, the purpose, where they're going, the city, the state, the country, and then here it'll show the approval status. So if it's been approved, canceled, not submitted, if you wanted to export this to Excel and then narrow it down to just see any requests that haven't been submitted yet, you can do that. This also shows you the date that the request was created. So if there's something in here that's really old that hasn't been submitted yet, you could probably reach out to the traveler and just tell them, hey, this still need to be submitted. If not, then you should delete it. It'll show you the submit date, the policy, if it's a business expense or a travel policy, and the amount requested, the amount that was approved. And then here it has the funding source that was listed on the request. All right, so this is the information that will show for the travel request status by employee, and same for the expense report status by employee. So I'm going to go ahead and go in, and we're going to move on to the travel expense claim detail report. It's thinking. All right, so we have our prompt page. From here, we have to select our home org. That's a required prompt. So I'm going to go ahead and search for our business applications org. I just did a control F, so it's easier for me to find. I'm going to select that. We can again select the school if we wanted to narrow it down to employee or the cost center that was used. So I'm just going to go ahead and run it for our entire business applications. So we'll go ahead and click finish. All right, so we have a list of expense reports that are broken out by expense type. So we can see here that for this expense report to St. Louis, it's broken out by airfare, conference, registration, hotel, parking, per diem. So it'll list everything out. It'll list the amount and the payment type as well. So if it was out of pocket, if it was charged to a P card, the payment status, when it was set for payment, and the payment confirmation date. And then over to the right is the funding that it was charged to on the expense report. And then over on the left-hand side is just the general information of the report. So the employee's school, the home org, the group that they're in, if they're employee or non-employee, if they're active in the system or not. It would active is Y for yes, and then if they're not active, it would be N for no. The employee's name, the ID, the policy, if it's a travel or business expense, and the report name and report number, and then the approval status. So if we needed to export this to Excel, we could do that here again as well. We'll just click into this drop down and click Run to Excel. All right, so it downloads it. We can open it up. And if we need to manipulate this in any way, we could do that here again. So we can see that everything is listed out for our org by expense type for all of the expense reports that have gone fully through the approval process and have been paid. Go ahead and close that out. I'm going to close out the reports that I've run so far. And we're going to go back into team content. And we'll run the travel expense by project report. All right, this one has the same prompt, so we'll select our home org. Go ahead and search for that. We'll check that. And then again, we can select our school, the employee, or the funding. You can see here that this employee prompt is different. It's a list instead of a search and select. So we've kind of gone back and forth between what style we should use for this. So if you guys prefer that search and select prompt for searching for an employee, you can type it in the chat, or if you don't really care, then you can also type that too, or if you prefer this list so that you can kind of see everyone that's listed here. If you prefer the list, you can put it in chat that you prefer to see a list. But so far we have, I think, 2 reports that use that search and select prompt for looking for an employee. And then the rest of them, I believe, have this list here. All right, so I've selected my home org and I will go ahead and click finish. Okay, so this report is the same thing as the last one, but it's listing out each expense by account code. So it's the same details. It'll show you the school, the home org, the group, whether they're active, the employee name ID, the policy, report information, approval status, the account code, and the amounts, the payment type, and all of the funding information over to the right. All right. So we're going to go ahead and close out of this. Back into team content. We will move on to the sent back to user report. So this report is going to show us all expense and requests that have been sent back to the user. So we can select a school again, or we can select a home org, or narrow it down by traveler. I'm going to go ahead and stick to our home org. Go ahead and click that. And currently this prompt is just for the expense reports. So you can see here, expense workflow. There is a next button, so we're going to click next. And so now this prompt will be for the request workflow. So we're going to search for the same thing. So we'll select our home org and we'll click finish. Okay, so here we can see all expense reports for our org that we had selected that have been sent back to the user. It lists out over on the left-hand side the expense report details. So the school, again, the homework, the group, whether they're active, the employee name, ID, the report name and number, when it was created, the start and end date of the report, when it was first submitted, last submitted, the approval status is sent back to user, the amount, what policy it is, and then the org that was listed on the expense report. And then over to the right, we can see here that it was sent back on the supervisor step in the workflow. We can see that it was sent back on June 28th. And it was sent back by the employee that was assigned to the step, which was Luke. And then the comment here was that we could delete this because it was a test. So up at the top, there are tabs since we're looking at both expenses and travel requests. So we can move over to the requests workflow comments. And over here, we can see all of our travel requests that have been sent back to the user. It's the same information, just for travel requests. So over on the right is where we could see who sent it back at what step. So here at the cost center approval step, it was sent back. Any comments? If there wasn't a comment, then we're not going to see anything here. So this is a great way to kind of keep track of any requests or expense reports in your departments that have been sent back and are still sitting in that sent back to user status. So maybe they need to, fix something and resubmit it. So again, we can export this to Excel. It'll download it and it'll have two tabs here, the expense workflow tab and then the request workflow. All right. We are going to go ahead and go into here and run our last report, which is the security report. I'm going to go ahead and click into that. All right, for this report, this is probably one of the reports that I run the most frequently. It's really helpful if you need to see what approvers are in the workflow. If you have a Cognos license, and you're able to see university-wide data, you don't have to select a prompt here. If you wanted to run this report open and see everyone in the university, you could do that. But with great power comes great responsibility, so just keep that in mind. So for this example, I am going to narrow that down again to our specific org. So we're going to go ahead and select our org for our cost center approver, our department travel admin, our supervisor, and any delegate approvers. Okay, and we can click next. And over on this tab, if you wanted to just run this report by school, you would not select anything on the first tab and just click next, and then you can select what school you wanted to run the report for. So this already defaults to Office of Admin and Finance for our department. So we'll go ahead and click finish. All right, so we could see that we have 4 tabs up at the top. Currently, we are looking at our cost center approver, which is Charideep. It'll show the if it's a project or a SOPAV, the org, the approver type, which is cost object or cost center, the school that the approver is in, the group that the approver is in, employee, the approver's name, the ID, whether they are active or not, And then we have the org info here on the right-hand side. So we'll move over to our department travel admin. So here it'll list out all of the employees that we have in our org, and then who the department travel admin is, which is Ashley Simon. And then over under supervisor approvers, it'll list out all of the employees and then who the supervisor is for that employee. And then over to our last tab, delegate approvers, it'll list the employee's name and who the approver delegate is. So I am currently listed as an approver delegate for Willa and for Luke. And then, yep, over here you can see if they can approve or not. This should always say yes. Or if it's a temporary approver, over here it would say yes. All right. So again, if we wanted to run this to Excel, we could do the same thing. We'll click up in here on the caret and run it to Excel. All right. So those are our main 6 end user reports that we have available here for you all to run. There is this role validation report that is a one-time annual thing. If some of you may have been assigned a Cognos role to be able to run this report specifically, I can go ahead and quickly review that because it's kind of an annual thing. It's not something that you would run on a daily basis, but I can do a quick demo of this in case you're on the call and you have the responsibility of running this report. So you'd select the org that you are responsible for, and then just click finish. And then so for our department's org, it will list out who the cost center approver is and who the department travel admin is. And then from here, you would run it to PDF so that you can sign it and send it to CMAS in this situation. Okay. All right. Well, that wraps up the reporting workshop and all of the reports that we have available. If you have any questions, feel free to put it in chat. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording.
Hey, Alina, can you bring up the PowerPoint slide that had all the reports and what they did?
Yes, sure.
And we'll get this posted on our training site so you folks can have it as a reference so you can see what the reports are and where they or what data they pull.
Yep, I'm going to stop the recording first.